Bonjour Benoit, comment ça va?
Très bien, merci.
So I'm glad we finally meet in person. We've been connected for quite some time. We're at Fintech Connect today, so the first day in London. You're going to be delivering a keynote, I believe, midday, the evolution of the customer experience, right?
Yes, that's
So it's going to be in the next couple of hours.
Yes.
So you've been at ING for quite some time now. So you've been leading ING in France, so CEO, president, and then you've been very involved in anything fintech, investment as well in fintech and innovation, and not chief innovation officer for ING. Am I correct?
Yes, that's it. I'm a Chief Innovation Officer of ING and also CEO of ING Ventures. Yeah.
Could you please maybe in a nutshell explain, so what does that entail, and maybe share some of the key initiatives you're working on at the moment?
Yes, and I think innovation has been at the core of ING's strategy, obviously over the last 5 years, but I think also about 20 years ago, I think, when we started and disrupted ourselves in the market in launching ING Direct 20 years ago, combining phone and internet. I think this is something which we have in our genes. So I think we have always believed, as being challengers in many places where we are, that we have a role into disrupting the status quo and the way things are doing, with only one intention, is just to deliver a superior customer experience, because we believe that the difference will be made by customers because of the experience they have, and not because of a specific product or a price on the product.
And I think that's quite unique indeed. I've been following ING and ING Direct for years now. In social, digital, you've always been at the forefront in Canada, other parts of the world, you know, Canada, in Australia, in various spots. But anyway, what are the core principles of your innovation program or philosophy at ING?
I think we would think about 3 C's. So it's customer, because everything we do should be done for the customer. I think everybody's saying this, you know. I think after the crisis, customers be so centric, yet it has to be done, right? Not said, but really done and experienced by the customer. So that's one. The second is culture, because eventually it's not about digitization. We are going through yet another technological change, but this is not making the difference, right? The difference is being made by people behind it, thinking in the way customers are thinking. And the third C is connection, because of course we have very smart people at ING, but I think we also think that there are millions of people outside who know better, and we have to connect to. So we have today more than 200 partnerships with fintechs, right? Because they have done things which we have not, and I think we always need to be open. So 3 C's: customers, culture, and connection.
So connection, collaboration, the idea is to build that ecosystem, yeah?
Absolutely.
200 partners globally?
Yes.
Not just in Europe or not just in Amsterdam or the Netherlands, yeah? Okay, if we step back, because one key component for any organization, but including banks, or even more for banks, is how to build that very culture which then foster innovations, because that's a challenge. Talent just by itself is a challenge, or to identify, attract and retain the right people. But yet, if you want to add that brick on top of it of the right culture, the right mindset, how do you do that? How a bank like ING does its best to do it on a daily basis?
I think you're totally right, because this is the differentiator. But I think first we need to acknowledge that it takes time, okay? So it's not by applying a couple of principles with consultants, putting on slides, that the culture is changing. I think the culture is effectively changing by deeds, by things you do and the experience people have. They need to understand that, because by nature we as human beings do not like change, right? So we like to stick, we like stability, predictability, we don't like change. So we need to create an environment which is helping for that. So what you need is to bring a sort of security to the employees, to say it's okay if you fail, you know, you try, it's okay, don't worry. So what I'm trying always to say, well, things go wrong, it's my fault, right? When it works, you know, it's the business, because it's very important that the energy of 53,000 people is making the change, not a couple of hundreds in innovation. So it's just by connecting it to every single individual that they see that their life will be better if they innovate than if they do not, that you get all those people working together. Like the Chinese say, if you want to remove a mountain, you need to move small stones, and you start, and everybody's staking its small stone, and I think if 50,000 people do that, eventually you'll see the mountain moving. So it takes patience, but also impatience, because there should be a sense of urgency. So
I remember I used to work in innovation in banking in the UK back in 2007. I don't know if you can, or 2008 as well, which is another, environment. And based on my experience, one of the only ways really to drive innovation is to reward people for being innovative. So at ING, is innovation recognized as part of the balance scorecards or like hard metrics? Like, even though that's hard to define,
no,
but
so we have
53,000 people.
No, I think it's not for every 53,000 people that there's a hard metric. No, but I think I agree with the point that you need to have an incentive for people to do it. But I think the biggest incentive is still to make their daily life better by innovating and being proud of what ING is delivering. Also by having them contributing, being respectful and give recognition for the work which has been done. I think those are important things. So what is really helping is that innovation is led eventually by our CEO, Ralph Hammers, who really genuinely believes that if you want to build a good bank and a better bank for the coming 10 years, you need to invest now, and it takes time. So he's also nurturing that idea, telling this to his team, making this happen, so that the whole leadership is giving this image, right? So there are KPIs, hard KPIs is certainly one element, but it's certainly not enough, and I think not the key element. I think it's just showing that it makes everyone's life better by having a better company they work for, they're proud of their daily life. And
I like this focus, and I've always said as well, the line between customer experience and employee experience is kind of fading pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
So, and we've got a tendency to focus on the customer.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so that's
you're right.
So exactly. So I totally agree with you. Yeah, there's so much, so many variables or areas to be disrupted, or which had been disrupted already in banking, with the advent of digital, mobile, and blockchain, we're going to talk about later, and anything in between. What is the biggest area you believe, as of today, in innovation in banking? What is the biggest one you're working on at ING?
Maybe I'd put two, if you allow me. I think I would say certainly open banking as being a new way of working. Banks have been trying to be very closed, and getting close to the relationship, protective to yourself, and I think now we see the power shift coming from banks to the consumers and the customers, and they will be deciding. So I think it's now up to the banks to adapt and get open and connected. So I think this openness is revolutionary in banking. Now on the technology side, I certainly point AI, machine learning, because banking is just a function of knowledge. What do? We just get savings and lend the money to people who give them back, and I think we secure enough that the money is going to go back because we know about them and we try to have those models. So it's a function of knowledge. How efficient you are is knowledge. And AI and machine learning are just tools which are enhancing, exponentially the knowledge. So it's no longer in the brains of people, but I think the machine helps us to get better, more accurate solutions. And by doing this, I think banking will be available to more people, will be also easier. I think we see also small businesses who are just not having access to lending, now having access to lending, because fundamentally banks want to lend. I think we've sometimes been blamed for not lending enough, but I think as a bank we make money by lending, so we want that, right? But we just also want to make sure that the guy will pay us back, because this is not our money, this is the money of other customers, right? So we have to be very careful. But AI and machine learning are absolutely amazing tools we'll see coming up in the coming 5 years.
And I was going to say, yes, digital, AI, all those technologies which manage you to offer a good customer experience at scale with minimum operational costs, because it's always the challenge of the RM, relationship manager, if you're talking corporate or commercial banking. And I see it as well as a great opportunity, as you said, to provide a better service at scale minimum cost and yet be relevant. So
Yes.
it's one of the most fascinating areas of banking at the moment.
Yes, and I think, working on this, the more will be digital, I think the more the human part will be important. And I think what I call the bionic bank, where the AI and all those tools will enhance the ability of the relationship manager, but yet, there's still very much of a human touch, of a sensibility, of an understanding of what the customer wants at what moment, which the machine is not ready to provide, right? They can provide a condensed information, which is valuable, but I think this relationship has still very bright days ahead.
Because it's a good example when you said the idea is to convince employees of the value of innovation, because then hopefully those employees, even at a branch or wherever, can then refocus on the higher value products, the more interesting conversations, and the more impactful to the customer at some point. So what are the examples, actually, according to you, the biggest examples of how the banking industry has been disrupted so far? So it's around data, around AI, around experiences. Do you have like one example or two you want to share?
Yeah, maybe I think if I refer to the point on open banking, I think what a company like Yolt has been doing, Yolt is just using the open banking to aggregate data and give you as a customer a better way to manage your finance, right? It's a bank agnostic solution, so I think Yolt doesn't really care whether your money is at HSBC or Barclays or whoever, but I think they just want to be your companion next to you just to help better manage. And I think this is something which is completely disrupting, because you had a relationship with a bank and that's it, but now you can have also a relationship with a non-bank which is on your side, helping you to manage your banking relationship. I think it shifts totally this, and I think when we've seen now, Yolt has more than 1 million customers now in the UK. It's been rolled out in France and in Italy, right? So customers are saying, yeah, this is really a problem which you are fixing for me, right? And I think this is always the best proof that it's not technology for the sake of technology or for IT vendors to sell new technology, but because customers want that.
And I've got one last question, but before that, it's if I go back to your first comment, everybody says they're customer-centric. It's been years, a gazillion of years, we've said, yes, we are customer-centric, yet very few organizations manage to demonstrate it on a daily basis. So maybe open banking can help accelerate that and become truly customer-centric. So the last question, thank you very much for your time. We know how busy you are today. What is the role of banks in the innovation landscape? Because we've got banks now, we've got fintech, we've got non-financial companies. So what is the role of a bank? Is it to lead it? Is it just to make sure they can facilitate collaboration? Where do you see a bank like ING?
I think banks have to be humble by playing the role they have to be. So not making themselves too small nor too big, right? I think they play. It's like when you run, 100 meters, you see the guys. You look ahead of you. You don't look left or right, because otherwise you just you'd never win the game. So I think it's like this. Banks should know what they have to do to transform. Many of them have started late to transform because they were very self-confident, not to say arrogant. Say, well, all those fintechs, it's very nice, but it's not important. And I've seen the change a couple of years ago, not because of the push of the fintechs, not because of the push of the big techs, but because of the interest rate curve, which has flattened and which is putting the banking model into question. And that's why banks are now more active. But I think banks have a tremendous role to play, because customers are there. They might not always like their bank, but yet they trust them. And I think it's still better to have the money there. So I think if banks do this faster, better, with a real mindset of helping customers, not helping their bottom line, but the customers, I think they have a bright future ahead of them.
It's the topic which, again, we could talk for hours. It's emotional trust versus rational trust as well. And banks still play very much in the rational trust, which is fundamentally important. Donc, merci beaucoup, Benoît, pour votre temps. J'espère qu'on se reviendra bientôt à Londres, Paris, Belgique ou peut-être Amsterdam.
Très bien.
Merci beaucoup.
Plaisir. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.